Welcome back, Ole Miss fans. I'm your host, Zach Moreth, and I'm here with Daylan Flowers for another episode of the Rebel Talk podcast. We're going to get into it, Daylan. It's Arkansas week. It's a scary week for Ole Miss fans around the country. Just your thoughts heading into Saturday. What are we thinking, bro?
Fun weekend. A lot on the line for the Rebel football team this weekend. Traveling to Fayetteville, a place that they haven't won, fun fact, since 2008. Look, it's going to be a fun game. Believe it or not, Lane Kiffin and Sam Pittman are behind Kirby Smart as the longest tenured coaches in the conference still at the same program. And so this is going to be a game of familiarity between two coaches. The programs have gone back and forth since Kiffin and Pittman have been at the helms. And I think it's going to be a fun game. One thing I want to bring up is, and you can kind of put your thought into this as well. I truly believe the Ole Miss Arkansas game is now. I know obviously Mississippi State is the rival for Ole Miss and the in-state rival, and obviously maybe LSU is the rival for Arkansas, although they don't play the last game of the season with each other anymore. But I truly believe Arkansas and Ole Miss are the main rivals for one another. If I'm so far to go, I think over the last couple of years that rivalry is kind of embedded in one another even more. Obviously, the more recent history as well, especially the 4th and 25 in 2015. And not just football. I think the basketball dynamic has grown tremendously. Obviously, Chris Beard being here has brought that dynamic up, and Arkansas kind of trying to linger to get Chris Beard to fill that vacancy when Eric Musselman left, and obviously the baseball aspect too, winning the national championship and beating the Hogs in Omaha a few years ago, and what Dave Van Horn has been able to do over the last couple of decades, and the rivalry in that aspect too. I truly believe that Ole Miss and Arkansas have now kind of put each other on the schedule in all sports, and seeing that this is going to be a dynamic matchup.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Dylan. And aside from that 2022 game in Fayetteville, it seems like the last few years against Arkansas, the games have been just electric, man. I mean, regardless if Ole Miss is winning or not, you look at last season, it comes down to the wire. I think John Saunders maybe had an interception. And then when Corral's here, it's like one of those all-time football games that everyone remembers. And it looks like we're going to be heading in that direction on Saturday, which is unfortunate because I'd like to go in there and blow them out like I think Ole Miss can do every game. But I think we're at the point where that's just not even a reality. Arkansas is a very talented team. This year they did beat Tennessee at home. 2 weeks ago, they also did lose to LSU 34-10. And then they responded going to Starkville and absolutely demolishing Mississippi State. So it's similar to Ole Miss. It's kind of like what version of that team are you going to get on Saturday? And hopefully it's the bad one for our sake, but genuinely they're a very talented team. Like Daylan said, they're well coached. It's a coaching matchup that we've seen for a while. And they are led by quarterback Taylon Green, who is a monster. He's 6'6", 230, 240 pounds. He can run fast, and of course he can launch it across the yard. A really talented player. Ole Miss is going to have to treat this similar to how they treated Jalen Milroe. Green's a guy who can not only throw the ball, but he runs a lot. He has the second most rush attempts on their team. And I just wanted to get your thoughts, Daylan. How can Ole Miss prevent Taylon Green from becoming the dynamic quarterback that he has the potential to be come game day?
With Arkansas and Taylon Green, Bobby Petrino's really come in, and his side of the ball, the players have really bought in. I think they've done a great job of developing a great balance between the run and the pass. I think they're number one total offense in the conference in terms of just SEC play so far this season. One big thing for Arkansas is the announcement that Jaquindon Jackson will be out against the Rebels this weekend. That is their star running back, leads the team in rushing, and creates a lot of big plays for this Razorback offense. The offense, I can honestly say, runs through him. They get their pass game going by developing a great running game. And so Jaquindon Jackson is going to be a huge miss for the Razorbacks this upcoming weekend. But I think that allows the Rebel defense to play a little bit more vulgar. And when I say that, noticing a lot, especially rewatching the Oklahoma game, we had a lot of trouble up front, especially on 3rd and short, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and getting OU off the field. Jaquindon Jackson being out really is going to be able to set the tone for this defense, but as well, we also have to scheme well. They have Braylon Russell, a young guy who is a very similar type player to Jaquindon Jackson. Honestly, just big, strong, muscular, physical running back. Puts his head down a lot and eats a lot of turf. So my big key on the defense is when we get in those 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 short type areas to get a chance to get off the field, how can we respond? Those are going to be the times that I think we're going to have to go set momentum in really, really well in Fayetteville. Because look, we did really good against Carolina and taking the crowd out of the game early.
Yeah.
And we had so many opportunities against LSU. Trey Harris dropped the pass on the first drive, and then the interception on down in the red zone, and then we don't score, and ample other opportunities to miss field goal by Kane Davis. Ample opportunities to take the LSU crowd out, but we didn't. And I think truly that is something that cost us the game. How do we go to Fayetteville and not allow that to happen? You talked about Jalen Milroe. Tarian Perkins, who has been absolutely phenomenal this year, just received the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week this past week. He's going to be the key. He really is. We've watched him be a very versatile player, put him on the edge a lot on those 3rd down situations, come back and drop into coverage and play running backs really well this season. He's going to be the key. Tarian is a great guy that can tackle almost anybody, has a lot of quickness, has a lot of elusiveness, but also he reads the gaps really well. Taylor Green and Bobby Petrino, they're not going to call a lot of quarterback design run plays, but you will see him scramble out a lot and use his athleticism to try to make a first down or a deep play happen. That's where Suntarian's athleticism comes in to evade that, because I think that athleticism matches up really well. He's not going to be a hard-nosed physical guy, but he's going to be a guy that's very elusive and can move around and play at a lot of different positions. So I think that's going to be key. Obviously, we don't know the full status of whether a few guys on that defensive line will play or not yet. And I think that's going to be big, just kind of allowing Suntarian to do a little bit more and have a little bit more freedom like we've seen him have this year. That's going to be huge. And I'd like to call out the secondary too. I think, starting the season, that was kind of really the only question mark, kind of towards the defense and how good they could really be. I think they've honestly stepped up really good. I think John Saunders has played phenomenal his 2nd year here. Obviously, Jaden Kennedy has, gotten a little bit of criticism, but he's honestly been playing a new role since the LSU game.
Yeah.
And I coming out of that nickel and now kind of being more of a focused cornerback, I don't think he's honestly done that bad. Obviously he needs to clean up the penalties and divert a little bit more and stopping the short passes and, do better in the red zone. Those sound like big things, but when you're in a new role in a new conference, a new team, that's going to have to develop a little longer than we'd like it to. And so I'd like to see a big performance out of him in terms of what can he do when the crunches get really, really hard, and how can he evade the big plays as well.
Yeah, Dylan. And this Arkansas, their passing attack, we stay on the topic of Jaden Kennedy. Against LSU, they were basically rotating Kyron Lacey at their will to make sure that he got that matchup. Kennedy's a smaller guy going against Lacey, who's 6'2". And looking at this weekend, you're gonna have a similar situation. Wide receiver Andrew Armstrong for Arkansas has the 2nd most receiving yards in the SEC behind Trey Harris, and he's also 6'4". So the guy is huge. It's going to be important for Trey Amos to kind of stick to him and prevent him from going and finding those Trey Washingtons and Lewis Moores and Jaden Kennedys, the guys who, yes, they're very talented, but, they're 5'10", they're 6 feet. They're not 6'4". Armstrong's a massive dude. He's a senior. He's been playing college football for a very long time. Kind of a strange situation here. I wanted to talk to you about. Arkansas changed their kicker against Tennessee, Daylan, and they've been running with that guy ever since. But he missed a 40-yarder against LSU. Other than that, he's been really good. But I do think that if Arkansas finds himself 4th and short on their side of the field, I honestly think they go for it, especially with Taylon Green. The dude is massive. There's no reason they don't snap it to him, do the tush push, and try and gain an extra yard or two. But from looking at the defensive perspective, it's very important that Ole Miss is ready to go on 4th and short, because it's a very unique situation with the whole kicking thing, to have your kicker subbed out in the middle of the year. And that's what Arkansas is going through. So you have to be prepared for that. And it's something Ole Miss has struggled in, stopping fourth downs. You look at that Kentucky game, you look at the LSU game, like these are things that lose you games. So it's going to be crucial for that defensive line to step up, make a couple stops. In addition to, talking about that defensive line, you're facing an offensive line who isn't nearly as bad as Oklahoma, but it's an offensive line that's averaging or allowing 2 sacks a game. And Ole Miss is a team that loves to eat. They got 10 sacks last week. So if you can get around 4 or 5 sacks, I think the defense is going to be in a perfect position to win this game. But again, LSU, they got no sacks. So what defensive line are we going to get? Can we keep contain on Taylon Green? And can Suntarian Perkins spy him to the ability that he did against Jalen Milroe last week? I think those are things that are going to be telling in this game. It's insane the impact of Jaquindon Jackson, and his absence is going to be crucial, and it's going to make the defensive job of Pete Golding a lot easier. But still, you're handling a versatile offense. They're 5th in the SEC in passing. They can rush. They have a very dynamic quarterback. I think the defense is going to do its job, and hopefully they'll put the offense in a position to win this game. But anything else that you want to acknowledge about that Arkansas offense before we talk about the beautiful offense of Ole Miss, Daylan?
Yeah. One point, the Arkansas rushing is averaging 4.4 yards per carry in the conference play, and our defense is only giving them 2.9 yards per game. So you're going to see two fronts be very physical in this game in Fayetteville. Like I said, Arkansas team that relies on the rushing game a lot. Braylon Russell's the 3rd leading rusher, and Taylon Green is the 2nd leading rusher. They're going to divert a lot of physicality in our defensive line. Expect a lot of play action pass. Bobby Petrino has, I think, truly gotten Taylon Green a little comfortable in this system now. The weird thing about this game is I honestly don't know what we're going to get, and that's from both teams. This is a game for Arkansas where they win, they're bowl eligible, and that's in the same situation a couple of years ago. They beat us and they became bowl eligible. This is a really big game for the Razorbacks, and I think as well, you look at how Bobby Petrino sets up. We don't know exactly what we're going to get from Pete Golding either. We could get a lot of disguises. We can get a lot of strong safety help. We can, something I noticed a lot about the Oklahoma game is we could not stop Jackson Arnold from using his legs. And although Jackson Arnold isn't an elite athlete, he definitely used what he had, and that was the ability to get up the field with his feet a little bit and get some yards. When Taylon Green has that opportunity, he's going to take it. Correct. And we can't allow him to do that. He's a long leg guy, very quick, and strides up the field really well. We can't allow that to happen. But as well, something that I think I kind of mentioned, reviewing the OU game is how do we finish sacks? Taylon Green put under pressure is a quarterback that I've watched a lot, obviously, with my ties to Arkansas this year. That especially at the beginning of the season really just struggled with pressure. And when he gets out and finds the ability to make a pass, Taylon Green has the ability to make a really bad decision, but also, just like he showed against Mississippi State, has the ability to make a really good decision as well. And that's going to be a little bit on our pass defense. I think we did a really good job, especially in that first half against LSU, limiting Garrett Nussmeier, although we weren't getting too much pressure on him. But how are our safeties and corners playing a little bit more outside of the box? How are they pushing wide receivers to get more outside towards the out-of-bounds area instead of playing in a more middle-of-the-field type area? That's going to be key for us. And I don't want, our defense to rely too much on, okay, the big play is going to happen, the big play is going to happen, the big play is going to happen. Keep it in front of us. I think that has worked all year long. Those middle of the field terms are, those middle of the field options are going to happen. You're going to get beat at times. How can this defense say, okay, I allowed something to happen. How can we quickly adjust and make it better? That's something that Pete Golding did really good against Oklahoma. A few tweaks at that halftime speech, halftime adjustment, and we saw a completely revamped defense coming out of halftime that shut out that OU offense for the remaining of the second half.
Yeah, and just really quickly recapping, kind of what Dalen said is I think part of the reason why you lose LSU is because you can't finish top here at Nussmeier. And now you're facing a more athletic quarterback, in my opinion, and a guy who can move around more efficiently. So it's going to be crucial to finish those sacks. I think it's going to be key that Prince Yelland is in this game. We got
Yes.
to see him keep containment and really live up to the pass rusher that he is and that he has the potential to be. Looking at the Ole Miss offense, we got an injury report last night. We'll get one tonight on Thursday and then another on Friday. I don't know what's going on with Trey Harris. I don't have much intel there. I would imagine, based off being questionable last week, he's probably going to be okay to play. You also saw Daquan Wright and Caden Prieskorn on the injury report. I don't think that's anything serious. I believe they were both probable. But it stays the same game for me and the same thing that we've been saying all year long, Dalen. Regardless of who's in the game, you have to establish a tight end presence over the middle of the field. And even more importantly, on the road is the run game. Whether it's Henry Parrish or Ulysses Bentley getting it done, I think the key for me to win this game is to get over 150 rushing yards, because not only does that affect and get you down the field, but it opens up the entire Ole Miss offensive playbook, and it's something that they've struggled in. It's something that we haven't seen done too well. Even going back to last week, they threw the ball around really efficiently, but they didn't run the ball to the best of their ability. And if you're going to beat Arkansas, and if you're going to establish everything you can in this offense, you have to get those runs. You have to rush for over 150. Get the ball in the hands of Ulysses Bentley and Henry Parrish, maybe outside the guards too. Those are guys who like to work in space. That's another key that I would like to see, but I think it starts on the ground. And if that happens, I truly do believe that the sky's the limit.
I agree with you, man. We cannot put ourselves in positions where we're in a second and long, third and long, continuously all game long. Our time of possession this year has drastically dropped off compared to last year. And I know we have the tempo offense. We want to get up the field quick, and we want to divert the defense from setting up or creating a lot of substitutes. But we also have not held the ball a lot this entire season. And that doesn't put our defense in benefit. And that doesn't give us the chance to actually set up plays and have any momentum or have any confidence later on down in the game. One thing I want to realize is this is going to be a 4-quarter game. We have to win every quarter for us to have a chance to even come out victorious in Fayetteville. I want to throw something at you, man. And you can kind of attest to this as well. Ole Miss is the #1 most penalized team in the conference this year. And since Lane Kiffin's arrival in 2020, they're the second most penalized team in the conference behind Alabama. That's something that has to be cleaned up. It's as much talk as we want to, we have the talent, the coaching hasn't been. We've put ourselves in many, 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 many bad situations based off penalties. And, sometimes penalties are 50-50, but at the end of the day, that's football. And we have to learn how to play through them. They've lost us some games this year. And I hate to play that what if game, but going back to the LSU game, that overtime, and then we get that penalty on their first two drives, on the first two plays, excuse me. And even then in that earlier that game, Micah Pettis gets a holding call in the end zone, and Jackson Dart scrambles for first down, but it has to come back. We have to clean up the penalties. We cannot beat ourselves up, and if we continue to beat ourselves up, we're not going to finish anywhere near where we want to, and that's why we have 2 losses right now in October. A big thing, like you said, is getting the tight ends involved. I think their mobility is really important. I think something that you can't really plan for as a defense is how a tight end can be used properly, whether you use him more as a run blocker the entire game, if you use him more as an X receiver like we've seen our tight ends be used, or even if you see them used as I call ghost screens, which we saw a lot of Caden Prieskorn do last weekend against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Kind of just sit there, act like he's going to create a block, and then he goes upfield and makes a play happen. Targeting him has allowed more energy in this offense, and I think it's going to have to continue. But I don't want it to get too obvious. I think that T. Will, the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, what they've lacked this year is depth. And now, it's kind of getting blown out of proportion, but putting up 58 points against Mississippi State, but that defense allowed, 24 points against Mississippi State too. And I think that's an attest to, okay, Arkansas has a lot of great talent on the defensive side of the ball, but they've always had what I will call a November slump. And even last year, you saw with Travis Williams that at this point of the year, those guys that they have and the guys that they lack behind them truly started feeling the effects and the true testament to a long season. And I think we saw a little bit of that against Mississippi State. And I think we may see that a little bit. I honestly don't know what we're going to get with T. Will. The Arkansas defense plays a lot of formations. They run a lot of man on their corner coverage. But they don't send a lot of blitz. And I think you may see Travis Williams run just a lot of base options this upcoming weekend and just have true trust in his pass defense and not allow our pass offense to get going. And that's because we haven't seen the Ole Miss running game get going hardly at all this entire season. And so I would expect Travis Williams to mix up a bunch of disguises, play a more structured game and rushing a normal 3 to 4, not sending too many blitzes and allowing his safeties to kind of play in a little bit of a curl area and coming up to help and stop the run a little bit when needed, but as well not allowing the middle pass, the short pass routes to happen. We've seen, Caden Lee kind of excel in that role, especially in the slot position and being in a little bit of the middle of the field and also being really excellent in the out routes. I think we're going to see Travis Williams try to avoid that and even allow the big plays to happen, because we've seen the big plays from this offense happen, but how effectively have we seen it happen in conference play? And that's something that I think has not been really talked about enough from people in general, but as well looked at hard enough from a coaching point of view. It's something that really got cleaned up against Oklahoma, but I continue to see a lot of it, and I really think it's something that needs to get cleaned up if we want to have a successful game plan against Arkansas.
Yeah, Daylan. And if Trey Harris comes back, does Ole Miss go back to this one-dimensional, let's throw the ball at Trey every play? Like a lot of question marks there. You would hope that doesn't happen, but I think a lot of it depends on how the Arkansas defense comes out. Like you said, they could throw in a million different packages because Ole Miss has struggled in a lot of areas that the teams Arkansas has played haven't. They struggle to run the ball. Without Trey Harris, they didn't hit really any deep ball. But at the same time, they were moving the ball for short yards and long drives down the field. So a lot of positives, a lot of negatives too. We're going to find out what version of Ole Miss that we get. Moving on to my score prediction, Daylan. I have Ole Miss winning this game 27-21. I think we are much more talented. I think I've been able to say that in every game. So it's a little more than that. I think our coaches I think they're going to have the perfect attack for Arkansas. I think they're going to establish the run game. I think we're going to be able to get those tight ends involved and learn a little bit from what we did last week. And then on the defensive side of things, I think the player of the game is going to be Sunterry and Perkins. I truly believe this defensive line is going to eat. I said it earlier in the podcast, but I'm looking for 4, 5, or 6 sacks. And from Perkins, I think he's going to have over 5 tackles and over 1.5 sacks. I think we're going to see him in that spy role, similar to how we did against Alabama last year. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job keeping contained on Taylon Green. I think it's going to be crucial to take the fans out of this game from the Ole Miss offensive side of the ball. The players can say all they want about LSU not in Death Valley not having an effect on the game, but when you can hear the fans that loud through your TV, I truly can't imagine how it felt like playing on the field. So if we can try and do what we did against South Carolina, that would be awesome. But season's on the line, man. Another week where your season's on the line. And the goal, it has to be to win and live to see one more week because you don't know what can happen. It's a crazy college football year, and I'm hoping Ole Miss can pull through. I have them 27-21.
I'm going Rebels 28-24. I think this Arkansas game has always been a funky one, and you truly never know what you're going to get. I think Terry Perkins is going to have a standout game. He has 8.5 sacks, and the Ole Miss single season sack record is 12.5. So expect for him to try to gun for that with the remaining games that we have with the season coming to an end. I think one thing I want to acknowledge as well is how do we stop a pretty decent Arkansas special teams, and I think they have a really good punt return team with Isaiah Satangia. I haven't truly seen enough from our punt defense to say I'm confident in them stopping Isaiah Satangia from putting Arkansas in good field position. That's going to be a huge thing. What positions are we putting our defense in? How are we getting our defense off the field, but in a manageable position? That's something to watch out for, in my opinion. I think going back to the offense, we got to clean up our sacks too.
Yep.
But as well, Jackson Dart has to not take dumb sacks or not, overthink situations. When you're out of the pocket and you got guys coming at you, no one's open downfield, throw the ball out of bounds. There's no need to put our team in worse positions than we already are in. I think a test that I want to see our offense do is when the times get tough and things don't go our way for a drive, or we happen to turn the ball over or something. I need to see a leader go to everyone and pick their heads up and say, "That's on me. We're going to go win this football game." And I know Jackson Dart has the ability to do that. I've seen it, but I haven't seen it enough. And with this game, with this atmosphere, with the honestly, as much as on the line possible, because Arkansas has Texas, they have Missouri, they still have a chance to maybe win 9 games. They have a lot on the line too, and I still think Pittman's really needs to have a strong finish to really secure a future in Arkansas as well. So there's a lot on the line for both teams. But I think that's going to be really key. How does Jackson Dart not overthink this? I really just want to see this offense have fun. I haven't seen them have fun really since conference play started. And obviously, we're not winning like we thought we would be. We're not executing how we thought we would be. But I just want to see this offense have fun. I really just want to, go out there, have a good time, maybe mix in a few weird play calls, don't overdo it, but, throw some things at this Arkansas defense that we haven't seen, even as a fan perspective, watching this team all year long. Throw some trick plays out there. Get creative in the red zone. That's something that I mentioned, kind of reviewing the Oklahoma game is this offense has really, really, really struggled in the red zone. How do we get creative in that point of the field and take what's needed? I think that's going to be huge. Take the points that we're given as well. That's something that we really did not do well against LSU. We didn't do well against Kentucky either. How do we take the points that are given to us? And I think that's going to be a really big key. Like I said, 28-24 Rebels, and it's going to be a fun one, man. Fans on both sides are excited about this one. I think Rebel fans are, kind of trying to understand what this football team really is. I think that first half against Oklahoma had people kind of continuing to truly be in kind of question. And then that second half, we're like, okay, this is what this football team has the ability to look like. And I think with the week that we should have, I think we're going to be able to see that, but you never know until the game starts and we actually see the players take the field.
Yeah, man. And this is the last thing I'll say. I would love to see it, just a complete game from Ole Miss where you're improving in a lot of the aspects that you've struggled in. You look at the game-to-game play, there was a huge jump, huge improvement from Kentucky to South Carolina. And then I felt like a lot of that went out the window in Death Valley. And then you come to Oklahoma, the first half, I almost was wanting to leave the game. My eyes were sore after watching that. But then the second half, it's like, wow, like, this is the talent that the fans have paid for. This is the coaching staff that we've assembled, and we look legit. So what version of Ole Miss comes to the field is going to be the story of this game. I think they have a lot more talent than Arkansas. It's 2 really good SEC programs, but whichever team gives the better version of themselves is going to win this game, plain and simple.
100%, man. As well, I'd like to say, how do we limit Luke Hass? He really
Yeah.
stood out against Mississippi State. He's also their leading touchdown receiver for Arkansas. Luke Hass is going to be a guy, if they have the opportunity, the Hogs have the opportunity to get into their own red zone, that you will see them target a lot. That's another key point that the defense is going to have to really mark up. This Arkansas offense has a lot of weapons. They really do. And it's going to be a lot of accountability that's going to be held against our defense, and how do we match up properly. I think we've done that really well all season, and I think we've continued to see the progression of the defense as conference play has started. And I think the players are just going to have to come out there and have fun like they have on the defensive side of the ball. That's something that the defense has done really good this season. Have a lot of energy, just go out there and have fun. I think they've really bought into what Pete Golding has done, and I think the boys are really enjoying their football. That I think that's kind of what's made this season a little bit as frustrating too, is that the defense has
Dude.
tremendously just bought in, played their hearts out, given 200% effort, and tremendously set the tone for this football team. And the offense has not really found the rhythm going into the ninth game of the season, which is obviously uncharacteristic of a Lane Kiffin football team. But this weekend is going to be an opportunity to prove all that wrong. I think that this is a Razorback team that you could honestly say possibly should only have one loss, and that's to LSU. But this is going to be a football team that's going to be a really good football team with the Arkansas Razorbacks. And it's going to be a game that we have to just win on the trenches. And I think that's going to be done by how do we play our game. And, when things go off script, how do we get back to what Ole Miss football is? And that's, playing a full game and playing a confident football. And that's what's going to take us over the finish line against the Hogs, man.
Backs against the wall. We'll see, man. 11 a.m. kickoff. Ole Miss at Arkansas. Anything else, Daylan?
No, man. Just make sure you guys subscribe, leave a like, and continue supporting the Rebel Walk, man. You guys' support means the world to us, and we continue to grow as much as you guys allow us to. So continue to subscribe and leave like and comments on the videos. We continue to make such great content, but we'd love to hear from you guys too, on what you want to hear, questions you may have, and what we can be doing better as well.
Spot on, bro. Be sure to tune into the rebelwalk.com for all your Ole Miss sports needs. And as always, go Rebs and hotty toddy. Thanks, Daylan.
Hotty toddy, y'all.